All right, artists. So I am going to talk to you today about value. Actually, you're probably going to watch a different video about value. I am just going to go through what I want to see in your sketchbook for this assignment. So the first thing we're going to do a 9 scale value scale. And I will explain what that is here shortly. But what you do need to know is that value in terms of art is how light or how dark a color is, all right? And so whenever you're shading, those differences in colors of how dark and how light something is value. So let's just write that note there here. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. And today we're just going to be using pencil. You'll notice I have 2 different types of pencils here. I have just the regular HB pencil here. This is just your regular school pencil that you would use. This is a sketching pencil, which is also like a school pencil, except the lead is darker and it's softer. So if you've ever noticed on pencils, especially drawing pencils, and that was one of the things on your supply list that if you could get, that would be great, but if you didn't, it's okay too. There's another scale of pencils, HB being the center, like the 0 point. And then as you go to the right, you have other pencils that are 2B, 4B, oops, that says 68, 6B, 8B, and so on, okay? And then over here, you see the H? It goes 2H, I cannot write, 4H, 6H, and so on. So what that basically means is the B stands for blackness, or softness. The H stands for hardness. So what that basically means is with the pencils, the HB, this is your regular number 2 pencil. This is what you use for school usually. But when you get a drawing set, you're going to see that there are some pencils that have 2H, 6H. Those are going to be your lighter pencils. Those are really good for like light sketching and stuff like that, adding light shading. It's usually the drafting pencil. So whenever you're drawing something, an artist will usually use a harder pencil because the lead goes on much lighter, and so it's easy to erase if there's mistakes, and it's easy to cover up. Now, when an artist wants a darker sketch or is ready to start adding value and shading, they're probably going to go to one of these pencils. And the higher the number, the blacker or the softer it is. And so, for instance, this one here is I want to show you an example. This is a 4B. And so that's about the darkness this 4B gets. This is an HB. And this is me pressing as hard as possible. You can see, although it may be subtle, there is a difference. All right, so that's just a little background on the pencils. All right, so for this value scale, what you're gonna do, the very first color in this box, and you're gonna use your pencil, just your regular number 2 pencil. If you have drawing pencils, you can use them, but it's not required. I want you to do a little neater than I'm doing. You are going to do the darkest value you can get with your pencil, all right? So you press hard, you press evenly, overlap if you need. This last box, you don't do anything to it. The lightest value you can get is no value at all, like no shading at all. So we're gonna leave that the same. Now, what we wanna do now is get the next value after white, which is this super, super light gray. And so if you haven't figured it out now, you're gonna go darker and darker until you get to that value. And it's just all about controlling the pressure of your pencil. And you're gonna do much neater than me because I'm trying to do this quickly for video purposes. I want to respect your time. So now you see I'm adding more pressure. And you'll want to make sure you can see a difference between each box. Now, it looks like I'm done, but I'm not, because some of these kind of look the same. And look at that big jump from here to here. So let me make this a little darker so the jump isn't so drastic, that it's a little more subtle and you can see how I got there. Since I got this one darker, I'm going to make this one a little darker too. And I think these still look very similar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to erase this one up a bit. Now, if you want an easy way to erase without taking all of the pigment off, and let's say you just want to blot it, because that one I didn't really need to erase. I just needed to blot some of the pencil up. There are these really great things called rubber kneaded erasers, and honestly, if you're a fidgeter, this is amazing because this is just fun to play with. It's like Play-Doh. But how you use this, you can just kind of dab it like that and it picks it up. And so when this gets dirty, all you do is kind of just play with it again and it just kind of cleans itself. It's kind of amazing. So let's get back here. You can get one of these rubber kneaded erasers, probably even in the art section at Walmart. They're fairly cheap. You can definitely get them at Michael's. If you ever get stuff from Michael's, use the coupon. So I think this one. So you're just gonna play with this for a bit until you feel like each value looks different and makes sense in the scale, which this doesn't quite just yet, but that's okay. So on your paper, on your sketchbook, what you're gonna do a 9, like I did, but you're gonna do nicer, right? You're gonna do a 9 scale value study. But then I also want you to practice 2 values of 4 different types of shading. All right, so I'm going to tell you what those are. There is blending, hatching, cross hatching. I'm sorry, my handwriting is not great. And stippling. And for this one, I'm just going to use my drawing pencil so you can see better. You're going to do a dark value and a light value, all right? And so the first one is blending. So blending is a type of shading where you can use your finger, you can use a Q-tip, a paper towel. There's also these things called blending stumps, and they're just these little white paper things that you use to blend. I have a few of those here. I just don't use them a lot. All right, blending, super simple. The next one is hatching. Hatching is a type of shading using lines going in one direction. The more lines closer together, the darker the value. You notice how the value is starting to lighten as I go up because there's less lines and they're further apart. So then I'm going to do an example of one lighter value. Okay. The next one is cross hatching. Same idea, except now you're going to have lines going multiple ways. So the same idea, the more lines closer together, the darker the values. This is one of my favorite ways of hatching, or one of my favorite ways of shading. Okay. Okay, I'm getting sloppy again. Yours is gonna look a lot better. The last one, you might want to use a marker. You can use a pencil, but a marker probably work best because it's literally dots, okay? When I taught middle school and we did this, I'm telling you, migraines for days. I'm not gonna do both of these because you shouldn't have to watch me do this for 3 minutes straight. So again, the same idea with the dots applies as with the lines, the hatching. The more dots, the closer together, the darker the value. So you're gonna do the same thing for these. So far in your sketchbook or your paper that you're working on, you're gonna do the 9 scale value scale, and you are going to need this for your next project that you're doing. So make sure you do this. And then you're also gonna have the sampling of the blending, hatching, cross hatching, and stippling. Last, I'm gonna draw a circle. All right, you know what this is, right? It's gonna be a sphere study. So we've talked about shape before and we've talked about form. Shape is like a circle, a triangle, right? It becomes a form when you add value. So this circle is gonna turn into a sphere because we're gonna shade it to make it look like a sphere. And so you're going to just begin to shade, and you can use whatever shading method you want. Mine's gonna be, I don't know, like maybe some sort of blending, hatching hybrid. Now, your pencil, if you're using a number 2 pencil, it's gonna take longer, but that's okay. You don't feel like you have to go out and get special pencils, but if you decided you wanted to, you can get them for like, what, $3, $4 at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Walmart, especially Hobby Lobby or Michael's if you have a coupon, which you can get them on their app. And if it's not already on sale, then you can probably get like a 30 or 40% off coupon. And that's mainly if you just want to have accessibility to those, or if you just really like drawing or want to practice drawing more and getting into it. So whenever you're shading a sphere, you're shading any 3-dimensional object, you're going to need to determine where the lighting source is coming from. Obviously, the lighting source on mine is coming in from here, from this direction, because this area is lighter. Okay, this isn't my best job ever. This could be blended more. But what I'm gonna do actually, because I want it to look more dimensional, and there are no outlines in life naturally, we're just gonna delete, you like that? We're just gonna erase that hard edge because again, those don't occur naturally. So whenever you're drawing something and you do a hard outline on it, you're hurting yourself if you're doing something for me and you're trying to make it look realistic. So the assignment we're doing for this next project, don't do any harsh outlines. Sketch your item loosely and lightly, and you'll be so happy you did, because then it's gonna look so much better. Now, I'm gonna use this guy to kind of pick up this value and make it a little more gradual. I wouldn't worry too much about cast shadows, but if you wanted to, you could, but you'd have to understand the direction that the light's coming from and how it would affect that sphere. So we'll just include that there, clean up this edge. So your sketchbook assignment, 9 scale value scale, sampling of the 4 different types of shading. These are the basic ones. There's other ones like scribbling and stuff like that. And then you're gonna do a form study of a sphere. Now, your main assignment for this project, because this is gonna be due on one day, but then you're gonna spend the rest of your time the next 2 weeks working on this next project, which is going to be something like this, okay? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna find a small object, something that you can carry around with you, bring it to class, whatever. I would like it to be somewhat reflective like this key is, but it doesn't absolutely have to be. I don't want to see any trademarked characters, copywritten things. It just needs to be a simple object. And what you're going to do, you're going to divide your paper into 6 squares, right? Connecting. And you are going to draw each item and capture the value in them. It's not going to look realistic unless you do the shading appropriately. So that means knowing where these dark areas are supposed to be and knowing where these highlighted areas are supposed to be and making sure that all of that is captured. So that's what you're going to be doing, and that's going to be due on the 30th, depending on how it goes. If the work is looking good and you need more time, I will give you that following weekend to complete it. But one of the things that you should do is make sure as you are working on this that you have this value scale accessible to you, because you're going to want to make sure you have all of the different values of the value scale in here, because if you don't, then you did not shade enough. So I hope this video gives you a solid foundation, an idea of what the expectation is for the next 2 weeks. If not, shoot me a message on Canvas.